Hi everyone, Teddy Baldassarre with TeddyBaldassarre.com, and in this video we're looking at some new watches from Hamilton. Familiar face though with the Hamilton Khaki field mechanical options with some bronze cases as well as some stainless steel options. So in this video and on this channel we cover watches available for purchase on our website, TeddyBaldassarre.com, as an authorized dealer. So in this video, deep dive on these new Khaki fields, final points of consideration at the end, but also throughout the video if you have more interest in these watches, wanting to explore them more or maybe buy the watches, check out the link in the description down below. But without further ado, let's jump into the video, take a closer look at these new Hamiltons. For many watch collectors, the 38mm Hamilton Khaki field mechanical is a gateway into the hobby and a pillar of versatility that can be revisited time and time again. Just from a visual standpoint, the clean, uncluttered design of a field watch is a classic, and this is one that has great history to go along with it. Hamilton can trace its roots back to 1892 when it was founded in Lancaster, Pennsylvania as a producer of pocket watches. Hamiltons were well known for their accuracy, with the brand eventually becoming known as the watch of railroad accuracy. And if you're unfamiliar of why accuracy was so crucial in the railroad industry, just Google the Great Kipton Train Disaster of 1891, a year before Hamilton's founding, and you'll see why precision was so vital. And as many know, Hamilton also has a long history with the military. During the World Wars of the 20th century, Hamilton was a supplier to the US Armed Forces, with their pocket watches evolving into what became known as the trench watch of World War I. Essentially a pocket watch with wired lugs welded to the top and bottom of the case that enabled the watch to be worn on a strap. During World War II, Hamilton was one of the largest providers of field-oriented wristwatches to the Allied forces, so much so that they needed to halt production of civilian timepieces in order to keep up with the wartime effort. In the late 1960s, transitioning into the 1970s, Hamilton started to really move much of their watch production to Switzerland rather than Pennsylvania, where they remain today, now part of the Swatch Group. And we're just scratching the surface with Hamilton, so if you want to go even deeper into the brand, I'll link to a couple other helpful videos down below, including our ultimate guide to the Khaki Field collection, as well as some other videos of me visiting Lancaster, Pennsylvania to see where it all began. So the Khaki Field Mechanical is a visual doppelganger for the Hamilton Khaki Field watch from the 1960s used during the Vietnam conflict, with these three versions tying in details of the past with contemporary build quality. Looking at these three new 38mm Khaki Field mechanicals, it includes a few different versions. We have a first ever blue dial and steel, a white dial and steel, now with green lume rather than the faux lume, and a bronze case version with a new white dial. Now, some collectors might say that the field watch is probably the purest form of a tool watch, with function taking the lead over other design aspects. Case in point here with the matte case finish that's sandblasted in its effect. This finish was done with some historical detail, but also thinking about utility in mind. Although this creates this very tactical-like look, it also creates function if you think about the intended use case of these original designs. Polishing on a case is obviously highly reflective, and those flashes of light reflecting off your watch could be easily giving you away to enemy troops in your position on the battlefield. An added benefit of a sandblasted finish is its resistance to scratches when compared to a polished case, and on top of all of that, it just really looks cool. So as discussed, these cases come in steel or bronze, impacting the price depending on what version you're going for, with the matte finish of the bronze having the added perk of aging beautifully as it patinas over time with wear and having exposure to water as an example. Another point to mention is the bronze version does come with a closed titanium caseback. A bronze caseback would have been impractical due to the possible corrosion of the screw-down threads and will make it more comfortable on the wrist. Another point of contrast between the two different case options is that the steel versions have drilled lugs while the bronze do not. Now looking at the case dimensions, this will also provide some familiarity for those that have ever tried on one of these Khaki Field mechanical models. You have a 38mm diameter, a very trim 9.5mm in case height, and then a 47mm lug-to-lug measurement. In terms of these watches, I do find that they wear slightly larger than the 38mm diameter, probably closer to a 39mm as a byproduct of that 47mm lug-to-lug. Across the wrist, 38mm is not going to be wide, but that length is going to be a little bit longer than your traditional 38mm diameter watch. A big reason why this watch also doesn't wear that much larger than its 38mm diameter is because of the strap choices typically paired with it. When you're going for a NATO strap, it's not going to add much to that length on the case and will drape around the wrist very easily. Speaking of the straps, I think they're of adequate quality and definitely can be in your rotation, but if you're going to get a Hamilton Khaki Field model, I think the true benefit of these designs is just how versatile they are. So I would definitely encourage you to invest in some other straps to pair with these watches. The dial is protected by a flat sapphire crystal, and well-sized crown offers an easy grip, important when we're talking about a hand-wound watch. Moving on to the dial, legibility is everything when it comes to the traditional field watch, and Hamilton doesn't disappoint in this department. Bold Arabic numerals pop off the dial in white on the blue dial variant, while the white dials get the contrasting black markings for great visibility. The larger outer numeral markers form a 12-hour scale, while the inner scale is marked by 13 through 24, making it a simpler matter to show military time. The outer edge of the dial features simple minute markings with superluminova filled triangles every 5 minutes. The lume color is green on the new white dial steel model, and vintage color lume highlights the blue dial and the white dial bronze version. The rest of the dial is rather unadorned apart from the Hamilton word mark just below the 12 o'clock, giving everything a clean, uncluttered look despite the amount of information being presented. And overall, I would say this dial is superbly balanced, all things considered. Speaking of lume, since this is actually a bigger point when talking about these watches, now that you have an option here with this white dial without having the faux lume effect, I could see this being a point of intrigue for those that are not as much of a fan of the faux lume offerings from Hamilton. Also, in terms of its shine, the lume I would say is just okay, but far from exceptional. If you look around the industry, you'll find that most watches under $1,000 are going to be featuring automatic movements, but there's just something about a hand winding movement that really connects you to your watch. Maybe it's just the daily ritual of topping off the mainspring's wind in the morning before you start your day, but once you really start down the rabbit hole of collecting, many people find themselves wearing a manual winder before they know it. The Hamilton Khaki Field is one of the best places to start this journey into manual wound calibers, considering that for an attainable price of just under $600 at retail, you're getting a true Swiss ETA-based movement with an 80-hour power reserve. Now, Hamilton's H50 is a modified version of the ETA 2801-2, with functions that include hours, minutes, hacking seconds, of course, because we are talking about a military watch, and will operate at 21,600 vibrations per hour or 3 Hertz. In similar fashion to other entry-level Swatch Group brands that are using these 80-hour power reserve movements, this movement's going to take the 28,800 beat frequency that is going to come with the base caliber and reduce it down to 3 Hertz or 21,600 vibrations per hour to allow it to have this longer reserve from 50 hours to 80 hours in this case. But one thing I would suggest if this is your first manual wound watch is just ensure that you're not over winding it. You'll know when you're getting to a point where you shouldn't keep winding. You'll feel some resistance in the crown. That's where you know you need to stop. But now let's unpack, looking at the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical, some new options here. What are my thoughts? What are some of the takeaways? What are some of the considerations? The truth is, many of the same considerations that we've had for years with the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical come here with these watches, but now with new dial colors to consider and a couple other characteristics that are also different compared to former models. I'll talk about just some of the general points that people bring up for cons as well as considerations. One is going to be water resistance. You are getting 50 meters of water resistance with these watches. Now, the automatic versions have 100 meters. If you are somebody that is a stickler for having more water resistance, I could see this being a point. 50 meters is more than enough for me. But for a watch that has this appeal of going anywhere, doing anything, I could see the intrigue of wanting to have 100 meters of water resistance here. These watches also do wear a little bit larger than 38 millimeters. It's not going to size out most wrists, and I do think that most people will be able to pull off this 38 millimeter watch, but that is something to consider. There are also 42 millimeter options within the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical line. The only other drawback that I would mention is that the lume on these watches, now getting those different colors is great, but the lume performance is not the best that you're going to come across. But now we shift to the pros and why I am such a huge proponent of the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. If somebody's going to ask me, what are some of the watches to consider under $1,000? I don't want to have to think much about it, but where can I go? On the short list is the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical. These watches are some of the most historically impactful designs in the history. If you're based in the United States, there's this cool connection, but also you have the ability to have a Swiss-made watch at a very attainable price, all things considered, if you look at the common prices for a Swiss-made watch nowadays. You have an 80-hour power reserve, timeless design, versatility galore, being able to match this with pretty much any outfit you could imagine. You have different case material options now to play around with. In addition, though, you're also finally getting a white dial with the lack of faux lume, which I think could be a point of intrigue for many that maybe were put off by the look of the faux lume markers on other versions. But I'm such a fan of the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical line. I have said it many times again and again. It's something that I've been a huge proponent of. I recommend them all the time for people that are looking for a stellar watch under $1,000. And with these, we are getting the same general premise that made the Hamilton Khaki Field Mechanical such a great watch for years. Now just getting some additional optionality in the process. All right, guys, well, that's all we have for this video. If you did enjoy it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell icon. That really does help us out, and I do appreciate it as well. Also, if you are in the market for this watch, we do have it available on TeddyBaldassarre.com. TeddyBaldassarre.com is an authorized dealer of over 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. In addition, how we're able to fund all of our production on our main channel as well as here is through selling watches. So if you are in the market for a watch, we'd love to have your business. We know you can buy a watch in a lot of different places nowadays, but it allows us to keep doing what we're doing here. We love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.